Kevin Coop here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. So you may remember that last October 21st was celebrated as Back to the Future Day because it marked the day 30 years in the future when Marty McFly arrived in the time machine that was made out of a DeLorean by Doc Brown, and he went into the future in order to save his as yet unborn children. This is in Back to the Future Part 2. Now, if you haven't seen the trilogy, you should. It's way too complicated to explain here. But it was a big day, right? October 21st. Now, my brother, Tim, is an elementary school teacher. He teaches technology. And one of the things he did with his fourth grade class was he decided to, first of all, he wanted them to look at Back to the Future, Part 2, and then figure out, okay, what technological innovations were predicted for 2015, back in 1985, that came true, and which ones did not. And then he threw a challenge at them. He said, okay, now let's speculate 30 years into the future. What technological innovations do you think will take place by then? And he had them all write it down. Now, he was telling me about this the other day. I said, oh, can I get that list? Because I'd love to see it. And I'd love to share it with you because I think it's really interesting always to figure out how young people are thinking. So he gave me the list, and among the prognostications are, and this is an intriguing look at how 9 and 10-year-olds think. Let's see, technology that will allow people to insert themselves into video games and into movies. The ability to travel to the moon for fun. Zero gravity rooms, I love that one. Hover cars and buses and flying motorcycles and cars that don't require any sort of fuel. Imagine that, what that'll do to the economy. Food replicators and teleportation portals. Somebody clearly was a Star Trek fan. Personal robots for everyone. We'll travel to Mars, and some people will live there. And we'll also travel to Pluto, and there'll be aliens living on Earth. Now, of course, this last one assumes that there aren't already aliens living on Earth. But I digress. Let's see. There were a lot of predictions about holograms, including having them built into what somebody called the iPhone 50. I love that one. Self-cooking food and food that travels automatically from the plate to the mouth. Not exactly sure how that would work. Now, I love this one. Robotic brains that will allow you to live forever. And this isn't such a crazy idea. My brother was telling me he's read a couple of books and seen some journal articles in which people actually speculate. By people, I mean serious scientists will speculate about how this is entirely possible. Now listen, I think there are some lessons here. One of the lessons is the fact that, that popular culture, science fiction, really does influence how these young people think. To paraphrase the old George Bernard Shaw quote, these young people, people like us, we used to look at things like that and wonder why and how. And young people look at things like this and say, why not? I also think that for better or for worse, young people are sort of identifying what their priorities are, and they're deciding what the things are that they want to spend time on and what they don't. If there's things that have to be done but they don't want to spend time on them, that's a really good reason to have a personal robot. If they want to do something, well, they want to do it immediately, and they don't want to be bound by the laws of gravity. That means you got to have hover cars or hover buses or teleportation portals. They're just thinking, they're already setting their priorities. And listen, these are still 9 and 10-year-old kids, but I think these are things that marketers really have to think seriously about. We're already starting to see, put into place, what people think, young people think, are what's important and what's not. And that's a real challenge to marketers. They have to figure out, how am I going to adapt to these priorities? How am I going to adapt to what they want and what they need? Because, of course, if you don't adapt to what they want and what they need, the odds are at some point you're going to end up being irrelevant. And that's the one thing you can never allow yourselves to do. Anyway, live long and prosper. That's what's on my mind this Thursday morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.